Time to listen. My microphone's over there. What, because he's prepared? Once he declared those two places free or whatever, once he said they were sovereign, he was respecting their sovereignty or whatever. Couldn't we have done the same thing and avoided everything? I think they're going to do cyber attacks against us, but what is on him? Does he have a cut? Like right? I don't even feel like that was there a minute ago. Was that there when he walked out? I just don't see how it's our job to tell the rest of the world what to do all the time. Team America World Police, you know what I mean? That's not our job. So, I know there are a lot of people who just go along with that. I just don't. And I don't think we need to suffer from whatever retaliation we get when I don't even feel like this is our fight. Yeah, okay, people talk about allies and all that stuff, but or NATO or whatever, but it's not the old days. You're not going to fight everything with soldiers. They can attack all of us, like I said. They could do everything they want to do with hacking. Or worse. You know, if terrorists could do bad things, so can countries. If you've made a point of telling him he's on the outskirts and or he's on the outs and he's not one of us and you're gonna isolate him, then he doesn't have to follow any rules at all. You know what I mean? Rules of engagement, any of that crap. There's no way they sent him out there without putting makeup on that thing. I swear that wasn't there when he came out. Looks like a huge cut right here. And what do you think they'll do to our banks? That's my point. They can hack all the banks to hit everybody in a regular way. They can hack all the power grids. They can hack the water supply. You know, they can hack whatever they want. That's the problem. Everybody's all about money. All they think about is money. And their virtue signaling. Well, here we are. Corrupt billionaires. Talking about Hollywood? I can't believe he's our president at this time. But this time wouldn't be this time if he wasn't our president. So there you go. See, all these things he's talking about, they're long-term things. I think a lot of people have underestimated Vladimir Putin. I do. I think he's smarter than most of our leaders. I think he knows exactly what he's doing. Do you want Americans dying in this kind of conflict? Or would you rather just be like, let them have the Ukraine? I'm asking you. The humans of Earth, the Americans that are watching this, who may have sons and daughters in the military, who don't want their banks getting hacked. It's not the old world. It's just not. I just feel like the rich people in our country, the rich people, whoever the rich people are, they've got enough money. The amount of money they made during the pandemic was enough. Why do they need war now? Why do they need war? Because war is about money. I have no money. I'm a good person. I tried really hard. I look for all kinds of help. And I help people as much as I can with no money. But listening to people and advising people and just being a good person and talking to people like a human being, that doesn't count in this world because it's not money. No, it's not a ride to the airport. You don't care. It's not just the gas pump. The reason everything costs a lot of money is because of the way the gas pump already was. That's how inflation works. And we, those of us who voted for the other guy, knew not to do this stuff. Remember when the other guy was president? Remember what the gas prices were then? Remember what meat didn't cost? they'll hit weak targets like local water supplies, like I said, places that, some city hall somewhere. Yeah, but they're going by history. This guy, like I said, I mean, next few weeks and months. When I was in college, which is a long time ago, I thought Ukrainians spoke Russian. Is it just Russian written with I want to say Romanji. Um you know, our letters. I look like a school mom with my foot and like this. So the word of the day is pariah, because that's not the first time I heard it. This is a dangerous moment for all of you. Yeah, and it didn't have to be. Because we could have pumped the brakes and not kept poking him. What people don't understand about the different sides, the divide in this country, is that we all don't want the same thing. We all don't want a fascist dictatorship. We just see it coming from the other side. Okay? So when they talk about freedoms being taken away, I see that as what's gone on in our own government. And the people who enjoy our government are looking outside. They're looking at China, they're looking at Russia. And I'm looking at our own country and our freedoms being taken away step by step in a culture war. I'm looking at us. I'm not looking outside for the bad guys. I'm looking for the bad guys within. And there's no plan to talk to Putin. Commercial just came on. Like they decided to not watch him anymore. Do you see this? What? I'm gonna try changing the channel. What in the hell did these people just do?
Do you see him trying to go beyond Ukraine?
Okay, Channel 10 WJAR.
Now, this statement that he gave last night will that the threat that he gave the West will face history. Is he threatening a nuclear strike?
I have no idea what threatening. I know what he has done. Number one.
You shouldn't say you have no idea what he's threatening. If you don't have an idea, you should be able to imagine. And that's what you should imagine. You should imagine the worst case scenario and act based on that. And if you want to be brave and be, I don't know what you want to be. You want to show some kind of bravado and stuff because Ukraine, but then your actions draw a nuclear strike on the United States.
Stand down. He's going to test the resolve of the West.
Yeah, test the resolve.
And we will.
And let's not get nukified.
Significant cost on it.
He's
Go beyond Ukraine, sir? Do you see him going?
Yes.
he's not going to do a nuclear strike because he's not stupid. I think we all learned a long time ago, you don't play with that shit because it contaminates the world forever. He's not going to do that. He'll do something else.
And Main Street, but everybody seems to be in
It'll be easy.
pain. How economically painful is it going to
He's
get
not a dumb man.
in this country? One more question.
First of all, there's no doubt that when a major nuclear power attacks and invades another country, that the world is going to respond, and markets will respond all over the world. So there's no doubt about that. Number one. Number two, the notion that this is going to last for a long time,
You said months.
likely as long as we continue.
You said it's not going to last a long time. You just said months.
We're going to impose on Russia, period. What's your next question? I'm sorry.
The next
No, sanctions ain't going to do shit.
Did you underestimate Putin?
Yes!
Would you still describe him the way that you did in the summer as a worthy adversary?
At the time, he was, I made it clear, as an adversary, and I said he was worthy. I didn't underestimate him. And I
Could have been friends, though.
think he's written.
President Trump wanted to be his friend. He got railroaded for that every fucking time.
You heard the speech.
Where would we be now if we were friends with Russia?
Why he
And we teamed up with Russia to resist China.
missions in Ukraine. He wants
Because that would have been ideal.
to reestablish the former Soviet Union. That's what this is about. And I think
Nope.
that his
You acted like President Trump, not you, but your side, acted like President Trump
contrary to the place
and him were having some kind of romance and made fun at every turn of being friends with Russia because somehow.
Are going to be as devastating as Russian missiles and bullets and tanks.
Yes, Russian bullets, missiles, and tanks in Ukraine. Yes, I am.
That answer didn't make sense.
If sanctions cannot stop President Putin, what penalty can?
I didn't say sanctions couldn't stop him.
No, she's asking you that.
These sanctions for several weeks now.
Yes, but there's a threat of the sanctions and imposing the sanctions and seeing the effect of the sanctions
So his only plan is sanctions. He got nothing else.
are two different things. And we're now going to, he's going to begin to see the effect of the sanctions.
Oh my God.
That do
Oh my God. Okay.
given he's
Because
attacking
we'll so
Ukraine
weaken his country that he'll have to make a very, very difficult choices of whether to continue
We need to pray.
or being a second
We need to pray to whoever we pray to. If we don't pray, we need to just send out positive vibes. We need to do whatever we can so that
sanctioning President Putin was on the table.
our country
That you're prepared to take, and if not,
and the people in it will be protected
sanctioning President Putin,
from
sanction him today, sir.
folly
Why not sanction him today?
by someone who is underestimating
Sanctions today instead the impact it would
Vladimir Putin.
time, but
I respect Vladimir Putin
given that you're not disconnecting Russia
because he's a human being. He's an intelligent human being. He's not where he is for nothing.
at your disposal,
He's resisted a lot of crap.
what more are you waiting for?
So many times they've been coming at him with nonsense and he just kind of blows it off.
The sanctions we imposed exceed anything that's ever been done. The sanctions we imposed have generated.
He's just all sanctions. This is sanctions, man.
They are profound sanctions.
Sanctions never worked.
Have a conversation.
Sanctions didn't work all the other times. Didn't we do sanctions with Iraq and all them? That fucking helped, right?
Yesterday, sir, what's the
He's ignoring you now. He's ignoring you now, NBC. Sorry. It's Peter, right?
rupture in U.S. and Russia?
Everybody looks like they have beaks with these stupid masks on. Look at a bunch of beak people.
If they continue on this path that they're on. And in terms of a Cold War, that depends. You have the vast majority of the rest of the world in total opposition to what he's doing. From Asia to South America to
Asia.
Europe to around the world. And so it's going
All these reporters should have been on this man before he became president, the way they're on him now. Because they should have realized this could happen. They shouldn't have been worried about somebody else's mean tweets. They should have realized we need a leader in wartime.
I'm not prepared to comment on that at the moment.
Everybody needs to pray. Pray for themselves. Pray for the world.
No.
Pray that the dum-dums who rule every part of our society, everybody in a position of power who's an idiot, that they all magically just turn to dust, just like Thanos did the snap. Let's just pray that all the people who shouldn't be in a position of power, because they don't understand anything and they shouldn't be in decision-making positions, just blow away, and that we can have people of intelligence and wisdom to take their place and lead us to a better time. And failing all that, pray for Jesus to come back. Pray for the Galactic Federation to step in. Call ET. Whatever. We need something else to help us out of this, because we're having a hole dug for us that we could be buried alive in very, very, very quickly.
We're in consultation with India today. We haven't resolved that completely.
And we don't know about India. Well, they're not important, right? Smacking. Okay. So you just did all this stuff and you... Okay. Okay. You ran away.
Russia into Ukraine there. The president saying this is a dangerous moment for all of Europe.
This is a dangerous moment. This is a dangerous moment for us.
Naked aggression, saying Putin decides
Why do I own... You know what?
the Soviet Union back together.
I saw
So many worse
us
presidents
being
setting out
aggressive.
sanctions, against additional
I'm not saying over nothing,
Russia's largest bank. He
but
said
escalating things, having things go to 11
now closed off. He believes the actions taken today will
because they want war. Why? I don't know. They have a plan. They have their bunkers in, the freaking Amazon. I don't know. But they've been done with the 99% for a long, long time. And I've been saying it for a long, long time. And I'm sad about it, because I wish that something had come along and
any NATO countries. The president
wiped away all this iniquity
into NATO countries will then
before it got to this, because there's a lot of good people. There's a lot of good people in the 99%. Salt of the earth people, a lot of good people who don't want to hurt anybody else. They just want to take care of their families. And they haven't been able to do that for years. And now they're put in this position, and it's their sons and daughters that are sent to war under normal circumstances. Like I said, I don't think we're going to get to that. This is just... We were that close to opening everything back up. We were that close to getting away from all the vaccine stuff. And then this comes. And I'm sorry, but I do not think it's an accident. And I do not think it's a coincidence. There's no such thing as coincidences. The point was for us to never be free again. Because the people that have everything, they got the world they want. They've got their plan. They're going to run, and they're going to be the elite. And the rest of us are going to be left behind. They ruined the world for the last 2 years because they were never having it come back. They've got their own world that they've created, and it has nothing to do with us. So they're going to fight amongst themselves. The billionaires, the elite, the so-called elite. This man has only sanctions as a plan. This isn't 20 years ago when it didn't even work then. This is 2022.
He said absolutely there has been a rupture of our relationship with Russia, given what's playing out, what Putin has decided to do in the global stage. He said we'll see what happens in the future when it comes to the
I think Alaska should be worried.
He was asked whether or not this is the beginning of another Cold War. He said it will be a cold day, certainly for Russia, given the sanctions that have been imposed and the unity.
You don't know
The president says he comes to
what
the
else is
table
going on.
as
There
far
could
as
be,
sanctions are concerned against Russia. He said
just like with terrorists, there could be sleeper cells.
united, and this is a point that the White House has made several times in recent days.
I don't think
that
this man
this is perhaps the strongest
understands
NATO in
the
many,
world that
many
he
years, the relationship. I want to bring
is
our
helping to run.
correspondent Ian Pannell on the ground in Ukraine. Ian, we were
We don't deserve this. I don't deserve this. David Muir doesn't deserve this. This man over here in the park, I don't know his name. He doesn't deserve it.
Was a special military operation to demilitarize Ukraine, and now less than 24 hours later, we're watching.
I'm going to go to my channel 10 people, see if they came back on. Because I'd rather see Richard Engel if I can. If he's there. Is he there?
Right now, we know that there are reports of fighting and attacks
I only trust Richard Engel.
of Ukraine by Russian forces, aerial attacks as well as on the ground, and there have been reports of casualties on both sides. Joining us now from Moscow is NBC News senior international correspondent Keir Simmons.
And Keir Simmons looks serious as fuck. You know,
They already baked in the pain and the cost of these sanctions. What's the
I used to
reaction
think
there?
Keir Simmons was a putz. I've seen a greater putz just now.
I heard some Russian banks named there by the president, VTB Bank, for example, that are crucial to the Russian economy. So clearly that will have some impact. That being said, the issue.
I like a lot of Russians. We just watched the Olympics and I was worried about the Russians. I was so ready to defect and go to Russia and just watch those girls. But, you know,
does appear to be some kind
like I said, I wish we lived in the Olympics. But these people, they have no idea.
of Washington and the view in
Saber rattling,
latching onto that. I think that's one
dick measuring contests. It's just so
exactly
freaking sad.
President Putin understand and know what is he being told by his
Why do they sit there and think that he doesn't understand? This is the same shit they did with President Trump. They think that if the people aren't doing what they want them to do, they don't understand. They think, oh, you're stupid. You don't understand what we're telling you to do, so we're going to keep telling you to do it. Because if you understood what we were telling you to do, you would do what we want. People do this to other people all the time. These are narcissists. These are people who put themselves up on high above everyone else. Putin understands perfectly.
intelligence officer, someone he has known for decades, a former member of the KGB. When you think about the way President Putin treats even his inner circle, again, it's raising this question as this conflict plays out in Ukraine. And remember, President Putin is making all of the decisions here. Are the people around him telling him exactly what he needs to know? Are they giving him a rosy picture of how this may play out? I think that is a question for the conflict, and it's a question for the economic picture too. As people here in Moscow, Leicester,
I think our side is not being realistic about what this man could do.
because of the crashing currency here in Russia, Leicester.
Keir Simmons, thank you very much. An economic battlefield and then a real battlefield, certainly in Ukraine right now. That's where NBC News chief foreign correspondent Richard Engel joins us.
Okay,
Richard,
thank you.
moving into another night. What are you hearing? What are you seeing? What do you expect?
So as we were talking earlier before the president came out, there had been speculation before this began that Putin might take a small option, that he might just take a piece of Ukraine.
I don't know why anybody thought that.
Piece that Russia already held, the separatist-held area. But when we woke up this morning, we woke up to the news that the war was beginning. It was clear that this was a total campaign. Russian forces first began with airstrikes, and then they moved in from the south, from the north, from the east. And initially, throughout most of the day, they were targeting military targets. They were targeting airfields, satellite facilities, radar.
Under normal circumstances, I would be worried about Richard Engel. I don't think any of us are going to make it.
Night two, or
I don't mind that either.
period of darkness,
This world is, they were
of this conflict.
making the world disgusting anyways. So
Poured into this country.
there's nothing left.
Tanks are making their way toward
There's no honesty, there's no integrity, there's nothing but money. Nothing but money and the quest for more money.
from the east and another from the north. And the three cities primarily are the main cities here in the south, including Mariupol, Kharkiv in the east, and the capital of Kiev. And there are great concerns about what will happen when Russian troops reach this city.
The other day, when he started all this rhetoric against Putin, I was like, you know,
Areas of Kiev after having
I know George W. Bush was the worst president.
So I think we're at an inflection point.
I don't
right now.
even want to consider
First phase of
the situation we have right now.
blunt the Ukrainian
But
military, and the next might be
again,
either
this goes to 11.
occupy the cities with the
He
goal of
just
toppling the government. And finally, I think one thing that struck out to me in listening to President Biden was that he's anticipating that, based on what he was saying, that this could be a prolonged conflict.
because he said months, and then later on when asked about it, he says this is going to be a long time.
Military is potentially no longer
And then he tried to roll back the months.
where there will be a resistance
Thank you, Richard.
in this country, and that would be an Afghanistan-like experience
Yes.
that both the United States and Russia shared.
Richard Engel inside Ukraine. Richard, thank you very much. Another headline.
And that's how the Taliban was born.
The president saying the U.S. is prepared to respond
Oh,
to any
man.
cyber attacks that Russia may launch this way in retaliation for those new sanctions. I want to bring in NBC News national security and military affairs correspondent Courtney.
Why do people vote for people like President Biden?
We don't really have a picture of this giant battlefield. This is a huge country we're talking about.
I mean, I ask, but I can't understand the idea of voting for somebody because you don't like the other guy. You know, when it's that serious, when it's that much of a difference. I can't understand voting for somebody who,
What do we know about their disposition and what's
I mean, a lot of people didn't like him either, but they voted for him because he wasn't the other guy. That's what I'm saying. It's not like they liked him. You know, for all their virtue signaling and something, they voted for the oldest, whitest guy they could.
We've heard everywhere from 175 to 190,000 total Russian forces there. But it's really the capabilities that have gotten U.S. officials and defense officials who have spoken with
Russian military positions, like fringe all the way around.
capabilities that they're worried about are cruise missiles. Now, we've already seen Vladimir Putin unleash somewhere in the neighborhood of 100 missiles on Ukraine in just this opening salvo. In addition to that, he used 75 military planes, that's fixed-wing bombers, fighter attack aircraft, on a number of airstrikes. And we should point out that was
Ground incursion began from Belarus.
in the east. While it was concentrated mainly in the east, it was all over the country. Some of the targets included military defenses, barracks, ammo depots, airfields, taking out the Ukrainian.
That's not my phone. I know that because I don't have one besides the cell phone, which I need to charge.
Assessment on casualties, civilian, Ukrainian military, or even Russian military, but they are watching.
Now remember,
something that they're trying to get a better
Ukraine
sense of.
had
It seems as if what we saw happen overnight, Lester, was sort
the
of
government that
very
Russians were happy with
beginning
until we got
part of
involved
military,
with
kinetic phase of
under
military
President
deployment.
Obama.
What
Okay?
that means is the defense
So,
officials are concerned that this
And like I
is
said, that was
not just
right
beginning
before,
of
during
Vladimir
the
Putin's
Sochi
campaign in
games.
Ukraine.
Because like I said,
They expect to see
our
cruise
the people in our country wanted to always keep Russia in their pocket as that enemy that they could drag out whenever they want to scare us,
may decide to
when
go
we were never enemies with Russia.
Ukrainian civilian.
That's why they have to use the word adversary.
What that means is, in the effort to go after both Ukrainian military and Ukrainian government infrastructure, some of those are located where Ukrainian civilians are living. There's a very real concern that that could lead to casualties among civilians in the coming days and weeks ahead. That's something that we're watching for. Despite the fact that it doesn't seem as if there's ongoing cruise missile and airstrikes right now, there is a very real belief, according to a U.S. military assessment,
Look at those helicopters.
that those are still going to be ongoing in the coming days, Lester.
And Courtney, one of the things we talked about prior to the attack was that Russia would likely do some kind of electronic warfare to essentially.
Hasn't happened to us yet, but it will.
You noted when
I'm
I was
100%
talking to
certain.
Richard, the
There's no
lights
way.
were on, he had communications. What do we know about that?
Yeah, that's right. So the assessment among the U.S. military was that there would be a large-scale cyber and electronic warfare campaign in advance of this kinetic phase. We did see some cyber attacks, but the electronic warfare or the jamming didn't really materialize. A senior defense official said it's not outside the realm of possible that that will still happen. But what's interesting is we actually saw.
I just thought of something. I don't want to say it. Should I say it?
Use that jamming in a
Elton John.
manner. We saw that materialize.
I don't know why I'm saying it. I just feel like, I don't know. Elton John's plane almost went down. Elton John had a beef with Putin.
Was that if they use this jamming and this cyber, it would really decentralize the Ukrainian military's response or their defenses, because the Russians didn't.
Because he said he liked Elton John. He just didn't like, promoting gayness. He didn't want anybody promoting gayness to his children's. And that was the beef they had. I think that was around the time of the Sochi Games too, because a lot of people at the time were like, we should boycott Russian games. We should boycott Stolichnaya.
Senior defense official is now saying that at the president's direction, Secretary Austin has authorized 7,000 more U.S. troops to move forward to Germany in the coming days. These will most likely be used either for additional unilateral deployments into the Baltic area or potentially if the NATO response force is activated.
All right, Courtney Cube with a lot of information there from the Pentagon. Thank you. I want to go to NBC News national security analyst Jeremy Bash. Jeremy, give us your assessment of where things stand right now and where they may go based on what the president laid out.
Well, yesterday, Lester, 40 million Ukrainian citizens were living in a democracy, and today they're living under Russian occupation. And so the president's very muscular, determined speech, I think, laid out exactly what's at stake. It's not only about imposing economic costs on the Russian Federation, which today's announcements will do, but also the president said that Putin's ambitions go beyond Ukraine. He wants to reestablish the Soviet Empire. And the president said the
I don't
United
doubt
States of
that.
America is fully committed to stopping that from happening. So
I don't know why we are. Because why do we want to risk?
Because the post-Cold War era is definitively over, and the president today made clear the United States is going to oppose the Russian Federation, Vladimir Putin, in its effort to reestablish that empire.
Well, but let me stop you there. That the Russians are in Ukraine. The president didn't seem to offer any idea that these sanctions would suddenly make these tanks turn around and go the other way. So is all this really aimed at protecting NATO now?
Yeah,
Basically saying
that's what it is. He's putting people in the NATO countries.
you don't get to cross the next line, which would put you in direct conflict with NATO and the U.S.
But he's doing a lot of grandstanding, and that grandstanding could cost us bad.
Drawing a line at the NATO Article 5 countries, those countries
So he's acting like he's doing something about Ukraine, but he's not. Because he just said our troops are not going to fight in the Ukraine.
to raise the costs on Putin. And I think over time, through arming the
So he's doing a lot of poking and acting like, you know, a muscle man or whatever, like a strong man, like he's going to be tough on Putin. Meanwhile,
will be in Ukraine, but they're going to pay a very heavy price.
Jeremy Bash, thank you. The economic fallout of the overseas attacks already hitting home here in the U.S. From the markets to gas prices, NBC News senior business analyst Stephanie Rule joins me with that. Stephanie, the president pointed out that it's natural.
I mean, people,
that some kind of large world event like this
we're in
would rock
bad
the
shape in this
markets.
country
This is
already.
when following historical expectations
Just because of the economy, just because of all the lockdowns they did to us. We're in such bad shape. If all these kids bought Bitcoin and they thought they were going to have a future and that shit went plummeted,
They want to know if it's going to rain or be sunny tomorrow. And a very clear message from the president, we don't know what Putin is going to do. But as the president said, he has his sights set beyond Ukraine. And that's why you see investors pulling out, because it's very unpredictable what we're going to get out of Putin. One thing we heard over and over, people were asking the president, why now shut down SWIFT? The United States government doesn't control SWIFT, right? It's basically an email system. It controls thousands and thousands of financial institutions over 200 countries. It's not like the U.S. government can just turn it off. Something
I don't know what
that
SWIFT
he
is.
and Vladimir Putin had with all of those Russian oligarchs. Pay attention to who they are, because we say all the time Putin doesn't care if his economy suffers about the Russian people. He cares about those oligarchs. Many of them are the ones who control those banks that are getting sanctioned.
All right. Thank you, Stephanie. That concludes our special report on Russia's attack on Ukraine. We continue to follow this story, and of course, as events warrant, we'll be right back.
we don't deserve this. None of us. Us, the Ukrainians, the Russians, none of us deserve to live in the world we're living in today. We don't deserve the world we had last week. We got to pray, like I said. We got to send positive vibes. We got to do whatever we can so that something magical, something more powerful than all of us comes and sets this straight fast.